I'd like to thank Sinn Féin for putting this private member's motion on the record tonight, and I absolutely support it, and I agree with what it has to say. But unfortunately, it is irrelevant, and it's irrelevant like our 3 other motions that we put here into the Dáil Chamber by the Social Democrats, Deputy Catherine Connolly and myself on the issue, and they were all not opposed by government. And this is a tactic increasingly being used by the government to demonstrate their complete disregard for supposedly democratic procedures in the chamber. The pause by the government in rubber stamping the deal with St Vincent's Holdings and St Vincent Healthcare Group for 2 weeks to supposedly allow for scrutiny of the arrangement by the Health Committee was nothing of the sort. You just needed a bit more time to get your ducks in a row. Deputy Nessa Horrigan is to be congratulated for maintaining her principal position, but obviously the Deputy won't have an opportunity to vote on this motion tonight, and I think herself and obviously other members of the Green Party who had a very strong position on this are going to have to decide what their place is in their party. As for the rest of the government and the party supporting it, you're a disgrace. Yet again, you have bent the knee to the powerful vested interests which have dominated the state since its inception and made the lives of women, and very often their children, an absolute misery. This was a test between the state and the Catholic Church and their proxies, a test you have failed miserably. You are covering up for your actions by claiming you are acting in the interests of women's health by getting the hospital built as soon as possible. And of course, this is a much-needed modern facility. But the parties who have been in government since 2013, when St Vincent's Healthcare Group arrogantly dismissed the idea of co-location, it was then that the process for compulsory purchase orders should have been put in motion. If that had been done, the hospital would now be built, operational on state-owned land, fully publicly owned and run. We need to deal with the reality regarding the issues around the provision of abortion service in this country. Despite repeal of the 8th Amendment and the introduction of legislation following it, abortion services are not, by any strength of the imagination, widely available. Half the 19 maternity hospitals do not provide termination, 8 of them state-owned public hospitals. 9 out of 10 GPs do not provide such services either. And in relation to the issue of fatal fetal abnormality, it is required for 2 doctors to agree on a diagnosis, and there are instances where in one healthcare setting termination is refused and then agreed at a different hospital. This is what clinically appropriate can mean. Salvita Halappanavar was given what her clinician considered clinically appropriate care. She was not given the appropriate care which would have saved her life. The Catholic Church casts a long shadow, and it seems to be particularly so in the medical professions. Leaving aside the question of Catholic ethos, a hospital costing up to and probably above £1 billion to build and then funded on a day-to-day basis by the state would effectively be part of the St Vincent's Healthcare Group, a private entity. Even if it is a secular entity, which I don't believe for 1 minute, why is the state handing over effective control with questions over actual ownership to a private company? Why is the state prepared to enter a legal agreement with a private company, as St Vincent's Holdings, deliberately set up true offshore arrangements to avoid scrutiny of its real nature and the understandings of which it was set up? This points to yet another miserable failure in relation to Care, the objective of a public national healthcare system open to all regardless of ability to pay. You have bent your knee not just to the Vatican and bishops but to the vested interests of private medicine. Care hasn't a hope of ever been implemented or seen the light of day, and I really believe that this government is wrong. I hope I am wrong, because I hope we never see into the future what we've seen in the past. I'm just very, very, very angry.